and welcome to this video regarding connectivity options from connecting your on-prem to the cloud providers. Today we're going to discuss three potential options. One is a site-to-site VPN, one is dedicated layer 2 circuits, and the other is based on a network as a service cloud fabric. So let's start with option number one. Option number one is probably the quickest and simplest, and it's the one that's been around for the longest, and it's a site-to-site VPN. Traditionally, what you'd do is you'd use a router or firewall at your site and create an IPsec tunnel from your on-prem across the internet into the cloud provider. Nowadays, it's quite easily done by going into your cloud provider, say, for example, AWS or Azure, and they will create something called a virtual gateway. And it's just a logical instance in the cloud that is one end of the VPN. It's quite advanced now because there's a lot of people connecting and doing the hybrid models. They've made it quite easy for you, whereas you can go on the portals, create a virtual gateway. You can put in your details with IP addresses and what type of security you want, and it normally spits out a config for you. And then what you can do is you can download that config from the cloud, and you can cut and paste that generally onto your appliance or router that you've got on your on-prem. What that's doing is tying up both ends and creating a secure tunnel between your on-prem and the cloud provider. Yes, it's going across the internet, so you've got some benefits of that. It's pretty much everybody's got the internet. Bandwidth is cheap, but on some of the downsides is there's no SLA, and you're at the mercy of how quick the internet is and the convergence times there. A lot of people use this as a tactical measure before they actually put something a little bit long term. It allows you to dip your toe in to start building stuff out in the cloud, but enabling you to have access to that from your on-prem data center. So that's the first option, is building an IPsec tunnel from your data center or from your site into the cloud. Cheap, quick, easy. Plenty of people have done it. It's using standard traditional technologies, but there are some downsides of doing that. One of the downsides is also be very wary or be aware of the data egress charges. So cloud providers are quite happy for them to put data into the cloud, but as soon as you want to start moving data from the cloud back to you and spit it out from the cloud perspective, you will incur data egress charges. And I think the majority of them are between sort of 8 and 10 cents per gig downloaded data. So be aware, if you're going to use the internet VPN, yes, it's quick and cheap and easy, but you may incur some large line items on your bill for data egress charges that you may not be aware of. So that's number one. Option number two is it's a fairly modern thing that's effectively creating a private circuit between your data center or your enterprise and the cloud providers. Works very much in the similar way as the VPN, and all it's doing is extending your enterprise and able to consume services in the cloud. So you can start to build applications out in the cloud or consume service in the cloud, and it appears if it's on-prem. Now, what these are private circuits dedicated from your estate into the cloud. So you've probably heard of, if your cloud provider is AWS, it's going to be a direct connect. Or if your cloud provider is going to be Azure, Microsoft Azure, it's going to be an express route. And what they do is a traditional telco will provide you a circuit into your building, and instead of it going into another site or somewhere, it's connected directly to the cloud provider. So some of the benefits on top of just doing a standard internet VPN is, number one, it's a private circuit, so you're going to get an SLA. You can have pretty much whatever bandwidth you want on that. Some of the downsides of that is the long lead times, because it's traditionally a circuit that's provisioned somehow, and the costs, because you're going to be paying for a private circuit. One of the downsides of doing this is, in a multi-cloud scenario, is that if you've got some workloads in AWS and some workloads in Azure or Google, is that you're going to have to provide multiple dedicated circuits from your enterprise into those three. Obviously, with that, you're duplicating all the costs of doing that, and different lead times and potentially different suppliers. So that's one of the downsides of that. One of the benefits of doing that is one I've mentioned previously about data egress charges, is that because you're taking a private connection from them, data egress charges reduce dramatically. So if you're going to push data out of clouds onto the internet, it's normally between, as I said, between 8 and 10 cents a gig, depending on which provider you are. If you're going to do these private connections, so like Express Route or Direct Connect or Fast Connect, they're generally a lot lower. So you could be looking at 2 cents a gig. They still want the money from you for doing the data egress charges, but it's a lot lower. So that's the second one. Private dedicated circuits from your estate into the cloud environments. Option number 3 is a relatively new idea, and it's network as a service, and it's what Cloud Gateway performs with a security wrapper. Effectively, what we're doing here is that you can connect to the platform, whether it be across the internet or a dedicated circuit, or if you're on campus and we've got mutual areas where we can connect to. It's a simple data center cross connect, and you can consume our services. Normally, we can do a network-to-network interface with your WAN provider. So say, for example, if you're with BT, we effectively plug into the BT network, so we appear as a third-party data center on your network. Now, the benefits of using a network as a service platform is the fact that we can connect instantly on-prem to Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Oracle, Alibaba, any cloud provider you can think of in the world. And because what we can do is we can instantly provision that. So yes, from a technical perspective, it's as easy as provisioning as an express route or a direct connect, except we're not having to dig up the roads. It's not costly. It takes about 5 minutes to do. However, it's using the native construct of the cloud provider, so it's seamless. And the benefit of doing that is that if you decide to go to a multi-cloud environment and you want to take some stuff from any of the cloud providers, mix and match, we can plug and play in, and you're not waiting. And it's dedicated circuits. It's not going across the internet. And one of the benefits of doing that is that completely agnostic on how you connect your environment to the platform. Big security wrapper around in the middle, but the top part of it, the connectivity, is that we can plug and play and connect into any cloud provider. Another benefit of doing it with that agility is the fact that we can control between the workloads, between the cloud providers. So if you've got workloads, say, for example, the front end may be in AWS, but the database and back end may be in Google, you need workloads to be able to speak to each other. And doing that means that you can come through the network platform and back out. It's not reliant on your data center to be able to do that. And it's got the massive flexibility. Obviously, with this, the benefits are it's agile, it's very quick, it's very flexible, and it's future-proof in many ways. However, it does come at a cost. It's nowhere near as cheap as doing a VPN across the internet. However, if you take the total cost of ownership and the flexibility required, it may be cheaper and better than doing dedicated circuits, option number 2, if you're going to multiple cloud providers. So thank you for listening. In summary, I've gone over 3 connection mechanisms and design patterns that you can go from your on-prem to augment and connect into cloud. What you do in cloud afterwards is a whole different discussion. So the 3 main ways are, number 1 is a site-to-site VPN. Number 2 is dedicated circuits from your environments to your on-prem. And number 3 is using a network platform as a service like Cloud Gateway. This is a shortened down version of some videos that are on our Cloud Gateway YouTube channel that are going into much more detail about who's involved, the sort of skill sets involved, and some of the reference architectures and use cases. So if you want to go and check that out, it's much more detailed than what we just discussed in this last 5 minutes. Thank you very much. I shall speak to you soon.